Welcome to Just an Average Citizen, the podcast that helps to educate, inform, and empower you to make an impact in Abilene and the Big Country. I'm so excited you decided to join me for this podcast. You know, it is a work of love, I guess I would say, because this isn't a topic that we all crave to know more about, but it's something we have to start becoming educated about, or else we will lose the gifts that we have in this city that we live in, this nation that we have, the things that God has blessed us with. We will lose those if we do not cultivate and take care of them in a way that it was set up, because our nation was set up to be the consent of the governed. That includes all the way from the national level down to the local level, and the local level has been neglected because we don't understand the power we actually have to make an impact in our city. It would be so helpful if you would subscribe and share this with your family and friends so that they can too start learning how to have keywords, like COs and GOs, and what does it mean to, have a fund budget and all those great words that we probably don't care that much about. But we can do hard things. We can learn things that are out of our skill set. I was laughing. I told someone today, I was like, I'm an educator. I never imagined that I would even give any kind of care to what a city budget looks like. And I probably said that many times. I mean, I pinch myself and go, who is this person? Is this a dream? Is it a nightmare? What is going on? Because I know that not many of you are like me. You're like, hey, I'm a mom, or I'm a dad. I have a job. I take care of my kids. I'm worried about their education. I'm worried about making sure I'm serving where the Lord wants me to, whether it's in the church or in the city, wherever. I'm wanting to be a person who contributes to where I live. And one of the things I never considered the importance of was in our local community. And I was completely checked out up until 4 years ago when God showed me that we have neglected this. We have not taken care of our duties. We have not done our job as citizens because, it was crazy. I've been looking through a lot of different information, and I noticed that when we had 60,000 registered voters in Abilene, we still had the exact same number of people voting in elections. And now that we're over 80,000, we still have the same number. So how is it that we get 20,000 more voters and no one is showing up? Or is it the new voters that are showing up? Or is it the people who just don't remember because they're like, what's the point, right? What do we do? How do we even make a difference? And I've told you this before, and I'll keep telling you, your vote matters. You can have an impact. I was looking at something that had a difference of 200 votes in Abilene, Texas. Can you imagine what would happen if 200 poor people showed up? And I know we talked about this because I think one of the bonds from last year I don't even remember which one. It was a close turnout. And so we have to show up and that's how they measure things. If you pass something on a bond, they're like, hey, this is what people want. If I've never seen more than 1,000 people surveyed in the city to know what goes on. And I'm just saying 1,000 people is not reflective of a city of 120,000 people. Now, obviously, the children don't have necessarily a say, but we can contribute things to make sure that they get their feedback so they know what we want and what we need to be doing in our city. And so I think we are seeing some of the negative results of us not being engaged with decisions that the city is making with that are concerning many people. And I'm not talking to a lot of people who are happy. Now, I'm not going out to find it. I'm going to go up to people and say, are you happy with the city? Are you good with the way things are going on? But when I ask, how do you feel about the city? Just a generic question, most people are not happy. And I think that's hard because there is a disconnect, because the people that the council is hearing from, a lot of them are happy. So where is that balance? Where do we find that? Well, we've got to start recognizing that it's on us to start doing more. We all have the same amount of time every day. We're all at different stages in life, but it doesn't give us an out to do our most basic duty as citizens of this great nation, to show up and participate in what is happening locally, on the state level, and the national level. And we're not going to get there overnight, but we can start recognizing that we don't want to just say, I just don't have time. That excuse doesn't work. I understand that you're going to have to rearrange your schedule, but it's your duty to make time for this because it matters. And I think when you think about what we're leaving for our kids, what legacy we're leaving for future generations, that will give you the inspiration to start making tired. We're tired. We all have different levels. I don't know of a level where life is less busy because, there's a lot of different things always going to want to steal our time, and we've got to make sure we're prioritizing this. And so, that's my pull up your big girl britches, big boy britches, and just let's start recognizing we've got to start paying attention because that's on us. We are a nation of the consent of the governed. We need to start giving our consent and things will change. I think you'll be impressed with how they're changing. In fact, I was able to ride on the Taylor County Republican Party parade float at the West Texas Fair and Rodeo. And I hadn't done that before. Last year I was present, but I was doing some other things. And previous years I just watched. I think the last time I was actually in a parade was back when my 17-year-old was an infant of like 6 months old. So it's been a long time since I actually participated, and I got a perspective that I wasn't expecting. It was really interesting. I was thinking that it would be something I would just wave and see. And then I started to I was so close to the people, I could talk to them. And it was like, how do I not just engage with people sitting this close? And so I just spent most of the time just making sure they knew to show up and vote. It matters. Your voice matters and your vote matters. And if we get people to show up, then we can get people to start doing other things. But, it's a process. But I think it was really eye-opening to see the responses of people. Some people were really excited to see us because they're excited about some possibilities that, what we represented as we drove through the city. And there were some people that weren't excited. They were clearly not in favor of some of those positions or platforms. And it was fun to be able just to say, it doesn't matter. Show up and vote. If you show up to vote, it matters. And so that was a fun takeaway for me. All right. So this week it's not going to be a big podcast because there's not a lot going on, but I do think there's some things I just want to use an opportunity to point out so that you can be better informed of what's going on. I was really excited for one of the meetings that happened this past week, which was a Street Maintenance Advisory Board meeting. I was excited because I really thought if I could get people interested to show up, then they would see how their voice mattered. Well, no one showed up. And I think that was actually a good thing because this was not a meeting. I don't know if I just saw a fluke. I'm not really sure because I had gone to the one in June and they were deciding on which streets they were going to work on with the $7.5 million of budget that they were allotted. And one neighborhood, I've already told you this, but if you've listened to my podcast at all, but one neighborhood showed up and there were 16 people saying we need our streets fixed. And they're like, hey, it's on our list of streets that need to be fixed. Let's do it. They showed up. Let's do it. And so I was like, okay, we get people there. They engage. They recognize what's going on. It's great. And so I was excited. And I knew that the odds of people showing up are very slim. Reality says that most of you don't really think it matters. And I get it. I understand why. I see a lot of fruit of that. I'm not excited to agree with you. I really wish things could shift, but I understand we're going to have to shift some things. And there is a huge disconnect in what we think about what we get to do in our city and what actually is done. But the biggest problem was when I showed up, the door was locked. The doors to the building were locked, even though they had a meeting for the public to attend. And who knows how many people showed up that didn't get in. I did see one lady knocking on the door when I pulled up, and I thought, well, that's weird, but I didn't think again until afterwards. I was like, oh my gosh, that lady was probably trying to get in, but there was no one there to open the door for her because she was not in the meeting. And, I didn't think that much of it, but I'm just like, who dropped that ball? It was an accident. It was an oversight. But when you realize you've made a mistake, why don't you fix it? Those doors should have been unlocked until that meeting was over. And it was really frustrating to see the lack of concern on doing a job with excellence. And I feel like it was reflected in that one aspect. So when I walked in, there was another couple already there because they wanted to make a public comment. Oh, let me show you. I forgot I had a video to show you. They wanted to make a public comment because they had noticed that the neighborhood across from them was getting their street fixed and their streets weren't even being considered. So they wanted their streets to be considered. And that's what you're supposed to do for public comment. Hey, my streets need to be fixed. Now, the city does all this technical stuff to figure out which streets are supposed to be fixed next. And it's just kind of let's just pick which one. I will say there is an order that doesn't make sense to the public because they're trying to repair the ones that aren't as bad first, because if we can maintain streets, it's less to fix them than if we're starting from ground zero, which a lot of the streets on the north side that need to be fixed are are very expensive to fix, and they're beyond repair. They have to be reconstructed. And so there's a lot of confusion about how that works. But one of the things that was most troubling to me is we get started with the meeting, and the chairman's a really nice guy, I would assume. I don't know him personally. And he was like, all right, I think we're not going to do public comment right now because I want to give people a chance to comment at each time and at the end. And the lawyer interrupted him and said, oh, wait, no, you don't have to. The public comment, you just need to do it in the beginning, and then you're covered for the rest of the meeting. And he's like, so I don't have to do it each time? She's like, nope, you don't have to do it each time. And he's like, oh, okay. And I was just sitting here thinking, what in the heck? Why would you have a meeting that's set in the evening for people to make comments on, and then only allow them to have a public comment at the beginning? And I really didn't have anything to say at the beginning. So it wasn't like I was like, I need to speak. I was trying to observe the lay of the land and figure out what was going on. Okay, so then they did the public comment, they went through the meeting, and I realized that there's a reason there needs to be further discussion happening throughout the meeting. It doesn't do any good to allow people just to make a comment about information they did not have. No one, well, they did have it on this one. But there's some information that we don't have until we go to the meeting, and to not be able to make a comment at the end is really challenging. And so, in fact, Max Johnson, who was the city representative in this meeting, was brought up the list that they were working on to show you. Let me see if I can get to it, because I think it matters. He got up to show a list of projects they were working on, and they're all color coded. And he was like, this is current projects. These are projects we're going to do, or something like that. And then he was like, oh, and these 2 lines, these are projects that are funded from somewhere else. One's a bond and one's from other funding. And I just was like, really? Really? Like, that's the official position, is that this money is coming from somewhere? I mean, like, did we not know that? And I'm not knocking him, because this isn't like, he's not the only one that does this. This is a common occurrence, that they just kind of give generic information. And it's like, wait a minute, we need to actually be giving detailed information. And had I been able to make a public comment, then I would have said, where exactly is this other funding? Not that they would have answered me, because they don't have to answer me. That's the craziness about this. It is like so rigorous, set up to be covered so that they can't be in trouble for anything. And I just was really disappointed. And this, along with every other meeting I've attended, it is like, there is no, it doesn't matter. They say they want us there, but they don't really respond. They can't respond. It's not meant to be an engagement process. And so after the meeting adjourned, I was, I just was like, what do I do? How do I handle this? And so I just wanted to stand up real quick so I could leave, because I don't know these people from Adam. And I just said, listen, I just want to let you know, it's really ineffective to have only a public comment in the beginning. You need to have it throughout the meeting so that people can respond to what you're discussing. And I know that you have to do what's legal to cover it in the beginning, but you really should be able to have places where you can comment on what's being discussed. And one gentleman was like, well, thank you for coming. We appreciate the citizens' input, he said, but you did have a place to make a public comment. And I was like, it didn't matter, because the meeting hadn't happened and I don't know what's going on. And I want to be able to discuss things or share things that come up that you need to be engaged with. And he's like, well, I'll give you my information. And I was like, but I don't need your information. All I should be able to do is email you on your city board email address. And he kind of looked funny. He's like, well, we don't have that set up yet. And I wanted to say, exactly. You don't have it set up. And the very few times I've tried to engage with people, one board hadn't even logged into their city board emails in so long they had to ask Google to give them the information. And another one just said, well, I will refer you to the city staff. So what is the purpose of a board if the board is not going to engage with the public? They're just going to pass the buck to the city staff. Who's running the show? It sounds like the city staff. That's what gets it done. So if that's the case, then all the decisions are being made behind closed doors without the citizens present. And so we got to fix this. I would say, what's the point? There is a point. You need to show up. You need to show up so that we don't have this meeting be 13 minutes long, because they think that's enough to cover their bases, so that we don't have to have any more information given. We don't have any oral reports about how the success of the program's going. Did you know that the street maintenance fee has been sunsetted? I mean, it's not been sunsetted. It's been reapproved. So they're now in another, 4-year term. And I've been paying attention, but somehow it slipped through the cracks that I didn't even realize that they voted on it. So again, I may have not been paying attention closely, so maybe I'll find it later. But did you even know that they approved it? Probably not. Did you know that we could have had it go away? Probably not, because we just don't know what's going on. And I think that's part of the plan. So let's go back to what I said was we haven't known what's going on, right? It doesn't matter. Now it's our job to start showing up and to start paying attention and to start recognizing, hey, the second and fourth Thursdays, that's city council meetings. Someone commented that they used to do evening meetings for the city council, but when they did that, the attendance actually went down in the evenings. So I don't think that was a fair reflection. But what I'm saying is we have to start making it a priority, because we don't want our kids to suffer from our inability to do hard things, right? We don't want our kids to have to do these hard things, although hard things make us grow, they make us stronger, but we don't want to put that on our children. We want our children to have an environment that they can grow up, thrive, and have businesses and succeed and have families and enjoy life, because that's what our nation wants to, the Declaration of Independence. It talks about the pursuit of happiness, that we get to pursue things that matter to who we are. It's not just like joy, happiness, like, oh, this is so fun. No, but like we get to live out the things that we desire for our life. And why would we want to make that for our kids? Why? But I'm thankful for people who are willing to share the hard truth. Is they don't have time and they don't really necessarily know how to make it important. And that's my job. So that's why it's important that you subscribe and share this podcast with your family and friends, so that they can start exercising those city muscles, so they can understand when they talk about an election, when they talk about approving a certificate of obligation, when they talk about a general obligation bond, when they tell you they need to do something because life is it's at a catastrophic stage. What does that mean, and why? What can we do about it in the future? All these things. And so I hope that this gives you just a little bit of encouragement. It also challenges you a little bit, because we cannot continue the way we were shown how to do it. We've got to start taking back the responsibility that is on us as citizens to be the consent of the governed, to be the consenters of those who govern us, and see the results that can then happen. I was driving by the new parking lot across from the City Hall, and it's like, man, there are things that need to happen in our city to improve the quality of things that they really want. But the choices that are made don't seem to be putting us in that direction. And it's like, you can't have concrete everywhere. And it's so sad that across from our City Hall is a big, ugly parking lot now. Like, why wouldn't they put a park? Or I don't know, they can't maintain parks because they don't have the money for it. But I mean, like, there's just things that need to happen so that we can have a better, successful community. And I know I'm kind of going on it, and we don't want to just complain. We want to make a difference. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives you some place to start. I'm trying to give you short tidbits on what we need to do so that we can begin to see ways we can make an impact in Abilene. So thank you for listening. I hope you are now a little bit more educated. You have a little bit more information, and you are empowered to make an impact in Abilene in the big country. Until next time.